Okay, so today I'm going to be speaking on Amazon Web Services AppSync. So before I begin, like a question, like so how many of you fall in this category? Like, are you a front-end developer who's like aspiring to go full stack? So how many of you like just raise your hands? No one. Everyone's full stack here. No way. Okay, so we have a problem, right? So the problem is this, like as a front-end developer, so you know how connected you are to the back-end guy, right? So sometimes it so happens that the back-end stuff may get delayed or the back-end developer may be sick for some reason and the front-end development gets stalled. So at the end you have just the static app, right? So that is a problem. So the problem is front-end devs and back-end devs not going in sync, and so for that reason, wouldn't it be cool if like you didn't have to depend on them at all? So as a front-end developer, if you have like full access to your backend, that is going to be something awesome. So for that, we have something called like backend as a service. It's also known as BaaS. So that's pretty funny, but so backend as a service, what is it? So backend as a service is actually it's nothing but a middleware between your API and your mobile or web application. So when I talk about backend as a service, I'm actually talking about something that comes in between your API and your application, right? So what would be one of the best examples of BaaS? And one thing that comes to everyone's mind is Firebase, right? So how many of you have used Firebase here? Yeah, almost like 70% of you use it. So if I have to ask you, like, what is the single most awesome thing about Firebase? So what will you suggest? Like, why do you use it first of all? Yeah. Okay. Any other like big advantages of Firebase? Okay. Yeah. So when you use Firebase, you obviously encounter some problems, right? You would have encountered some issues. So can someone just list out what are the issues that you faced, or what is like one major issue you have faced in Firebase? Okay. Anything else apart from that? Like, hmm. Yeah, so that's a problem. Like I faced that. I've tried integrating a cron job in Firestore, and that was a problem. But you can't do that with your real-time database, right? So coming to to name a few points. I mean, there are a lot of pros of Firebase, but I guess like if I have to name the pros, it would be like 10 or 15. But then coming to the cons, like one of the most difficult aspects is handling the collections and data. So for example, like if you have a lot of nesting in your database, so you'll have like multiple query and looping, right? So the moment you go like into like 4 levels or 5 levels into your database, you will have that many loopings in your code, and that can get a little difficult to comprehend, right? And performance-wise, yeah, there's a higher latency, but yeah. So we had built an app called Taskman, and that used Firebase as its backend. So what happened was, for example, if it's like an Uber kind of an app, and when you book, it sometimes does take like 3 to 4 seconds in order for your like the request to go. So imagine like booking a cab and like waiting for 4 seconds just for the request to go to the driver. So that can be a problem because normally when it comes to waiting times, people generally get frustrated after 1 second. So it's like after 1 second, people are like, okay, it's really slow. I know like 1 second is not that it's not that large, but then when it comes to an app, anything above 1 second fetching time is probably slow. The last point is a little bit harsh towards Firebase, but then yeah, we have to agree that it's not widely used by enterprises. So it's still, as you say, still in beta. That's what like the Cloud Firestore is still in beta, but then we are talking about Google. So Google's beta is better than probably alpha of many projects, right? So even though it's in beta, a lot of us are still like using it for production, right? So so why are we speaking about Firebase? I mean, this is a talk on AppSec, right? So let's look at the other backend as a service. Hello. Yeah. So let's look at some other backend as a service tools that we have. So one of them is GraphQool, and one of them is AWS AppSync. Both of them are very popular, and both of them are GraphQL bases. So why GraphQL? Has anybody like experimented with thinking about why are we using GraphQL? Why do you use GraphQL? Uh, why is GraphQL your choice when it comes to building apps? Anyone? Does anyone have an answer? Like when you think like building an app and you say, okay, I'm going to use GraphQL. Why do you make that decision? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah, you only get the curated stuff, right? You don't have to. So that's what. Like when you have something like, because we had REST APIs back in 2004 or something that was invented. Before that, we had SOAP, and GraphQL was like invented in 2012. So the problem with REST was like it's not like you can't use REST, you can, but then the problem is that you, as like using a REST API, for example, you need to know when to use it. Like if you want to say, like if you want to get a video, or if you want to get input from an audio. So if you want an audio file, if you want a video file, use REST API. But then if you want to have your app, if your app only deals with querying, like fetching or something like that, and if it's like primarily a UI driven app, that is when people will suggest you to use GraphQL, right? So when I say like UI driven development, I'm talking about front end developers. So let's admit like GraphQL is easier to learn as a front end developer. So it's since if your protocol is UI development, and if you want to have a UI driven development of your app, you could obviously use GraphQL. So when you use GraphQL, you don't have to depend much on your backend tech stack like PHP or Python or whatever, and that like pretty much can make you a full stack developer, right? And who doesn't want to be a full stack developer anyway? So coming to like data driven, like, when I talk about data driven app, right? So there are like four major things in like challenges which you can face in your data driven app. First thing is like the data requirements vary, right? I can have like different type of devices. I can have a mobile, I can have a tablet. Someone may be using a browser in a Mac or a PC. Someone may be using a smartwatch, right? So the data requirement varies. Like you cannot show, like for example, if you have a dashboard, for example, in your browser, whatever data is present in your dashboard, the whole thing, can you show it in your watch? No, right? Your watch is going to have different data requirements. Your mobile, your tablet is going to have different data. So the data requirements vary. That's the first point. Second point is that the users want instant access to data, right? So I don't want, like, so for example, if I'm booking a cab, I want my request to go instantaneously. I don't want it to like take 2 seconds or 3 seconds, right, to book. So that's the second point. The third point is, okay, without connectivity or without when a person is entering an area, or like if I'm going from one building to another building, I may lose access to Wi-Fi, right? So the user is going from a Wi-Fi to probably no Wi-Fi and then a wireless connection and then probably back to Wi-Fi. So my app should work, or like my service should work even with low or no connectivity. I could go to some place where there's very limited connection, or where there's like very limited connectivity, and I still need to have access to my data. So that's the third point. And last point is like scalability. So like whenever you speak to developers, everyone wants to build apps that will have like 1 million users, right? So everyone wants their app to scale 1 million, 5 million users. So, but when you have like 5 million users, how do you like make sure your app or your service actually has that capability of dealing with 5 million users? How do you charge, for example, how do you charge people with like 5 million users, right? So your app has to be scalable, and your service has to be of that level, right? So for that reason, that's why I come to this point. So you have these many challenges, right? So I would not say like AppSync solves completely, but then it tries to address those four major challenges I talked about. So what is it? Like, what is AppSync, first of all? So let's take a closer look. So it's just nothing but a service. It's a managed service between so it's just like an application data using GraphQL, So I talked about real-time capabilities and I talked about like offline programming model, right? It supports both. So AppSync is actually supportive of offline programming and also supports your real-time capabilities. I'll just go back to that. I'll just take, like in the demo, I'm going to be explaining about the real-time capabilities as well. And the second point is that since it's based on Amazon's infrastructure, so you also get to use Amazon's third-party services as well, which is like super cool because, uh, like for example, you see like S3. S3 is like similar to your Firebase storage. So instead of using storage, you use S3 bucket, which is like analogous to each other. SNS is like simple notification service. Pretty much replaces your OneSignal or Firebase notifications. Elasticsearch is another like awesome feature of AWS. So suppose you want to have searching capabilities in your app, you can use that. And there's one more called AWS Lambda. So Lambda is basically a service where you can write your custom resolvers as well. So that's what the same thing which I was telling. If you look at the main features of AppSync, the first one would be like you get to like collaborate in real time. You have like working subscriptions. You have like a very good offline programming model. And coming to flexible database options, like most of the databases that you've used, like for example Firebase, we took the Firebase example, right? So Firebase has a problem where you have to only rely on the file store or like the real-time database. You cannot have different databases connected. So in this case, I can use my existing databases and connect it. I can also use its inbuilt services like just like I explained. I can use Elasticsearch. I can use the DynamoDB as well, and I can also use Lambda. So I can have my queries, for example, going to Lambda. I can have my mutations go to something like a DynamoDB, right? So that gives me the option. So I have the choice to actually use flexible database options, which is probably missing in its competitors, right? So fine-grained access control, I'll just come back to that. Yeah. So the flow of AppSync is in this manner. So first of all, like you create a schema, right? You like in any GraphQL application, you have to create a schema. So your schema will have types. Your types will have like mutations, queries, etc. So you can just create and just you have an option to upload the schema as well. So you can directly upload your schema to the AWS server, and then that's the first part. The second part is connecting your data sources. By data sources, I mean all those things like AWS, for example, like Lambda, like DynamoDB, like Elasticsearch. All of them are data sources. So you can just connect your data source with your schema. And then the third point is your client. So you can update the data in real time. So the GraphQL client is also integrating with that. And so, yeah. So it's also integrating with that. And you also get like updates. So the third point is, okay. Yeah. So the third point is like you have the client and it updates your data in real time. So, and by the way, a good fact is that our CEO Sanket is actually like a good friend of one of its co-members of AWS, that is Nader Dabit. You can actually check out his Twitter handle. You can follow him on Twitter. You can also look at his GitHub account. He has a few very, very interesting repositories. One of them is like he has integrated Next Apollo with AWS, which is pretty awesome. So you can check it out. So, and then AppSync was also like, it was earlier known as Scaffold. They had a website before, it was called scaffold.io. I don't think it works now, but then you can also check out their GitHub profile, like scaffold.io. You can just look at the code. It's pretty much similar, and they are like, it was pretty good. I mean, it was silently acquired, as I know. So now that we got to know about it, why not like implement it? Like, why not create a simple API using AppSync? But before we do that, I'll just tell you like, so these are the data sources, right? I was talking about DynamoDB, I was talking about Elasticsearch, I was talking about Lambda. So DynamoDB is actually your main database that AWS is going to use. So it's a NoSQL service with global table replication, right? And then you have Elasticsearch, which is your search capability. So if you want your app to have like greater search capability, you can go for Elasticsearch. If you want to have higher reliability, you can go for DynamoDB. And Lambda, as I've said, if you want to create your own resolvers, you can use AWS Lambda. So these are like the three main data sources which AWS supports. And these are the authentication scenarios. So initially, you'll have an API key. That's like your API key is valid for 7 days. So it's basically unauthenticated. You have something called as Amazon Cognito user pools, which you can use for using group permissions. And then you have something called as AWS IAM, which is like high level role permissions as well. So these are the three main authentication scenarios in AWS. And then, yeah, so this is a sample schema. Let me talk about it. Like this is any sample schema in GraphQL. So you have a query, you have a mutation, you may also have a subscription. So I'll be going through this in my example, and I'm going to be like live coding. So I'm going to have like Rishabh and me live coding sample type, which is like a new. For example, this is a default type like post. I can have a new type, say user or something like that. So this is my sample schema, and this is how many of you have used subscriptions in GraphQL? Yeah. So yeah. So in GraphQL you have what you have like in subscription, that is replaced with this high level, like this what do you call that? Yeah, it's replaced with AWS Subscribe actually. So AWS Subscribe is actually the directive to connect to my subscription, and then I pass my mutations into it. So for example, create user is my mutation, and if I want to subscribe to that, I'm going to be just appending AWS Subscribe in front of it. We'll just look at this in the demo. It works like pretty cool. You will get a demo of like, it works in like milliseconds. In milliseconds, you'll have your subscription ready. So yeah, so that's about it. And yeah, I think we can start with the demo for the app. Yeah, so we're going to be having a small like a demo kind of a thing. So Rishabh is going to just give you an overview. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go forward and create a new API. So when you create an API, like it gives you the example to actually start from scratch, or you can use one of your own, like one of the templates which AWS provides. So I think let's start from scratch. Right? So you give a name to your API. So these are your endpoints actually. Like these are the endpoints provided by GraphQL by AWS actually. You can directly use it in your app. You can use the API ID and your output as well. So yeah, and then you have for various platforms. Suppose let's look at React Native for example. Alright. So for example, if you have a React Native app, you can directly download your Epsilon.js file. It also gives you the option to download your GraphQL schema as well. So you can directly like download the schema as well. Yeah. Yeah. So this is like a sample schema that we have. So we're going to go forward and create a new data source. Okay. So these are the different data sources that are available, which we talked about. We have DynamoDB, we have Elasticsearch, we have Lambda. We can also have like HTTP endpoints as well. That's also cool. So let us go forward and create a DynamoDB. These are the various regions that Amazon supports. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the sample table that we have. Food ordering users. Okay, and your table is created. That's it. Okay. So this is your console, and these are your tables. Right. This is a sample table, and these are your users and your various fields. So very similar to your Firebase table, but the thing is that
you can actually integrate it with your AppSync quite easily. So let's go forward and look at the authorization type. These are the ones. These are the four different types we have. Let's go to queries and schema. Once again, like the sample schema you have it here. These are your resolvers automatically created for you.
So whatever tables we created, that will be automatically.
Yeah, it's automatically available. So you do a sample query. So again, like just like your normal GraphQL instance, just a normal query, and it returns your data.
Is that going to be a SQL database?
It's no SQL.
No SQL. So we have problems of relationships and queries again, just like Firebase.
No, you won't, because you can actually create your own resolvers, right? Like, can you show the resolvers? Is there anyone? Yeah. See, it allows you to attach resolvers on your own. Yeah. So something like this. It allows you to define your resolvers. So you have a request mapping, you have a request like a response mapping as well. I think it's handled with Velocity. Velocity is a language that's handling the mapping. It's a Java based language.
So I can map like one of the properties of a table to another, like just like foreign key.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
you can do that.
So it establishes that relationship.
Yeah. And it actually gives you the chance to look at your like, can you just go to the bottom? So it gives you like these templates, so you can actually go forward and like select your template. For example, if you want your item ID or something like that, you can directly use the predefined templates that they offer. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. You can check it out. So yeah, these are the main things. You have a schema, you have a query, and you have a data sources. So you can go forward and create more data sources. You can probably have Lambda, you can have Elasticsearch, and the best part is like you can put your queries to DynamoDB. You can have your notations to Lambda. It's your choice, right? So that's pretty cool. And like one more thing is like offline capabilities. I was talking about that. For mutations, for example, your mutations are queued. Right. You can have like 10 mutations and they will be in order. So the moment you come online, they will be executed one by one, not in some random order. So
is that a part of the SDK or?
No, it is like it actually offers that. It's a part of the SDK.
Okay, but we don't have the SDK from that.
Yeah, you don't. You have only those 5 examples. Yeah, and of course, documentation. It automatically creates the documentation for you. So, for example, the ones that Rishabh created, he has the examples here. You can just click on one. Probably a mutation. You can just click on the string. Yeah. No, one time. Yeah. So for example, if you click on user, you get the user. Users is another type. So it creates documentation for you. I think these are like the main features of AppSync. And I think like if everyone gets a chance to use it, you should try it because it's something good, and you also get to like experience stuff that maybe you're not experienced in other databases. So I think if everyone gives it time and probably if you can give your feedback as to like how good it is or how fast it is responding, we can probably pitch this for our future apps as well. Yeah.
How does it compare with GraphQL and Azure?
Yeah, okay. First, let me come to GraphQL. Like in GraphQL, first of all, you're using you're connecting to just one database. There's a limitation there. Regarding subscriptions, yeah, that is the problem. With subscriptions, we have actually faced, a lot of us have faced issues. But with this, as of now, it's absolutely working flawless. With Hasura, I guess other than the limitation in database, like it uses Postgres. Like other than the limitation of Postgres, I guess not much difference with Upsell.
Here we are getting tied to Amazon services,
Yeah,
which is a bit of a problem.
But then it's good, right? Because you have like so many. Amazon provides so many services, so it's like a world in itself.
No doubt how they reach 1 million.
Yeah, that's like. But then if like Amazon itself is huge, so if everything is part of the ecosystem, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Sadhika was facing some issues with Kraftwerk.
Yes. So yeah, subscriptions is I've tried it out. We've tried it in our we've tried a few subscriptions. It worked fine. Not much of an issue. Like not as much as GraphQL, but it's pretty good. If like everyone can give it a try once and check how it's working. If it's good, then I think we can go forward. Yeah. So I think that's it from our side.